For the God of the mountain is still God in the valley. When things go wrong, He'll make them right.
Boy, I've been blessed.
Hey.
I've been blessed.
Hey.
Oh, no doubt about that. Turning your Bible to Isaiah, looking at going through the book of Isaiah for a while here, see what we can do. Anybody else been blessed?
Hey.
Yes, amen.
No matter what you're going through, you've been blessed, I want to tell you something. I know some people that are starving today. They don't have any government programs. In fact, the government programs one's called in Venezuela and other places. Haiti, India, a lot of places hungry today. I didn't go to bed hungry. I didn't get up hungry. At least I didn't have to. We got it we wanted. Boy, I tell you, it's been so good to us.
Yes.
Just take a moment to think about that. Let that sink in a minute. Boy, I tell you, we've all been so blessed. Got so much. Isaiah chapter 1, we're going to drop down to verse 2. Talked about verse 1 last week, the vision that he saw. And we talked about those 4 kings there. Uzziah was a good king. Jotham was a good king. Ahaz was a lousy king. He was rotten to the core. And I do not know to this day, I cannot figure out how Hezekiah got saved under that man. And he was offering his own sons as sacrifice, and how Hezekiah didn't end up as one of those. But, I don't know. It's all God, wasn't it? All God.
Always is.
Woo, I'm telling you. Verse 2 says, "Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord has spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know. My people do not consider. Ah, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel into anger. They are gone away backward. Why should you be stricken any more? You will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, and the whole heart faint. From the sole of the foot, even unto the head, there is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores. They have not been closed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment. Your country is desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. Your land, strangers devour it in your presence. And it is desolate. It's overthrown by strangers. And the daughter of Zion is left as a cottage in a vineyard, as a lodge in a garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city. Except the Lord of hosts had left unto us a very small remnant, we should have been as Sodom, and we should have been like unto Gomorrah. Hear the word of the Lord, ye rulers of Sodom. Give ear unto the law of our God, ye people of Gomorrah. Father, would you help us this morning? As your indictment, and we read it, and we talk about it, and we preach on it, please come and speak to our hearts, speak through us, Lord, and speak those thoughts that we ought to say, and help us refrain from anything we ought not to say. Lord, please guide our tongue this morning. But, oh Lord, I believe we could look at tomorrow's newspaper to be just as up to date as what we've just read. And I pray you'll help us in America. Help us, oh God, to turn back to you. Lord, you are our only hope, and we hope in you. We do. We trust you. We are a small remnant that are left. But thank God you've left us here to be a witness and a testimony. So please, may 2022 may be a great year of salvation for many, and may we win souls, and may we be wise and live right, and oh God, just help us in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Wow. Isaiah's ministry and Isaiah's preaching, and Isaiah, boy, they didn't much like him at times. He preached anyway. But we'll look at today rebellion, Judah forsaking God, and being chastened. You know that God will chase you. I hear people talk today, and it's just talk, and it grieves me. It really does. It's a lie. I mean, it's just a lie if you think about it. I hear people over and over saying, I'm going to whip you if you do that again. They know better. They know you're not going to whip them. And they do it again. And, well, I'm counting to 3. You know? And on and on. I'm telling you right now, this mess with Israel that Israel's in these days that that we're talking about, we just read about, we're in the exact same mess. I'm telling you, we're on trial just like they were. And God is the Supreme Court judge. I mean, He's above what we call the Supreme Court here. And some of them, Tom was talking about this morning, some of them are even telling lies. They don't know the Bible. I guess they know the law of the land maybe, but they don't know the Bible. Because the Bible says all liars, all of them, have their part in the lake of fire. I don't care how high you are up. If you're there's one above you. And I'll tell you, the first charge here, that He's in the presiding judge here. Over Israel and even over us too. And the first charge that He gives them is rebellion. Rebellion. From the time that God chose Abraham. You remember He started out with Abraham and called him to trust Him. He began to treat him like a father. And I've been thinking about that I can call Him Father. He is the God of the universe and everything beyond that. What right do I have? Man, I'm telling you, through the blood of Jesus, the only hope I have. But praise God through it. And He was able to call, He was a friend of God. Think about that. And He treated him like a son. He provided for him. He took care of it. When he got into trouble and did things he shouldn't have done, God got him out of it, over and over, and then Isaac, and then Jacob, and boy, those 12 tribes that are the 12 tribes of Israel. Oh, my friend, God's been really blessed. We've been really blessed to have God take care of us like that. He took care of them. He taught them. He met their needs, and when they sinned, He disciplined them. And I want to tell you something. I went back years later and thanked my mother for the whippings I got. I want to tell you something. I did. Because they helped me. And plus they meant that she loved me. I'll tell you something. I appreciated it. I did. He disciplined them. And trying to bring them back. He loved them so much. And that's why you get disciplined. Somebody loves you. Somebody loves you. Down through the generations, boy, they just did it over and over and over. In fact, they turned right around right after they got through the Red Sea, and it wasn't long before they was murmuring because they didn't have no water, and they didn't murmur because they didn't have this and that, griping. Oh, my friend, we're not any different. I'm not criticizing Israel. I have to raise my hand. We're just as wicked and sinful. They broke His commandments. They went to worship other gods, and a lot of those were involved with immorality. Even the old golden calf they made themselves. It was an orgy is what they were doing there. An orgy. When Moses came down, man, he gets so mad he broke the commandments. Oh, my friend. And I want to tell you something. We do. You think about that. They broke them, and so Moses literally broke them because of what they were doing. Immorality, lawlessness, violence. Does that sound like tomorrow's newspaper to you? I will tell you something. It sounds like what they're going to write tomorrow. They will. There'll be somewhere, there'll be violence. There'll be immorality. All of those things. Wow. But the picture is at the courtroom. And God's the presiding judge there. He sits upon a sovereign throne. Think about this. You know what God does? Anything He wants to do. There's nobody can stay His hand. And He's the one doing the judging in this thing. Boy, you'd think somebody, it gave me some fear. The Bible says fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. It's the beginning of wisdom and understanding. Wow. Wow, He's the sovereign, ready to indict the accused. And by the way, the accused are His children. Think about that. His own people. that were called and blessed and told the work that they were to do and the things they were to do, and they didn't do it. Wow. They were to be His witnesses. I believe God thunders. I believe He thunders. Notice that. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth. I believe it thunders out. You remember you had to have 2 or 3 witnesses, and it had to be 2 or 3 witnesses to indict somebody to death. And here we've got 2 witnesses. God's calling on heaven. God's calling on the earth to be the witnesses here. The heaven and the earth saw when God called Abraham. They saw when the nation of Israel was formed and fashioned. And they saw when He broke His commandments every time. Heaven and earth saw it all. What a solemn thing to think about. Wow. His thunderous voice. In fact, His voice thundered so much at Mount Sinai. They said, don't speak to us anymore. Don't talk to us. Talk to Moses. Moses, you come and talk to us. We need a little of that fear today, I think.
That's right.
And they needed it here at this time. Man, I'm telling you. They witnessed the birth of Israel, and they witnessed the rebellion. Heaven and earth did. The creation agreed with God on the charges that were brought against them. He's leveled a charge of rebellion against them. And boy, you talk about a solemn and a serious judgment. God's people were in, and God's people today are in. I believe us. We keep thinking about it. There was another one coming out the other day. I think another form of this virus. And I forgot. I can't even pronounce it or say what it was. It seemed like it's never ending. We think, well, it's going to end. Maybe this year it'll end. Maybe not. Maybe not. When we turn back to God, I believe it'll end. I believe that. If we turn back to God. And if we don't, it may be a long whipping. I will tell you something. They got one for 70 years one time. I hope we don't get one for no 70 years. I hope He'll come before then. But the charge of rebellion revealed 3 things about God's people. Look what He said. Verse 3. Number 1, the ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel does not know, my people does not consider. You're dumber than a mule. That's what He's saying. You're dumber than a donkey. You're dumber than an ox. Even the ox knows his master. He knows who feeds him. He knows who requires him to work and serve and live for God. And live for his master in that case. But same thing holds true. He said, you don't know. You don't know. Their rebellion proved they didn't know God. Now, a lot of people are religious and claim to know God today, and that was the same thing they were doing. They were going through the motions, bringing sacrifices, and then at times they just take them to Baal, and they're going to tell you, they've been back and forth. Man, He had chosen to be His people, and they rebelled against it. Second thing it shows, their sinful hearts, they've become loaded down with the sin. Notice verse 4, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity. They were laden down like a poor old animal with too much on his back there, trying to get, it was sin. He said, you're a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. I will tell you something, that's worse than being corrupt. Being corrupt is bad enough, but they were corrupting others. Wow. They were laughing when others sinned, rejoicing and cheering them on. Corrupting others. Well, I tell you, I hate to see that. When people in authority are corrupting our children, and we've got that today. Or we've got that in the schools, I'm going to tell you that. I just heard another story recently. I don't like that. I don't like it when teachers are telling parents, don't say anything to your children about homosexuality. I want to tell you something. You better say something to them. You better stop it. In fact, you better have a talk with that teacher, I think. Or maybe move that student somewhere else. I don't know about that. But I will tell you something. When you're a corrupter, that teacher was a corrupter. And people are being corrupted today by others, older people, and people that ought to know better. What a burden. They were evil children. Not only corrupt themselves, but they're dragging other people down. Come and imitate my behavior is what they were saying. And then thirdly, showed they had forsaken the Lord. They despised him. Turned their backs on him. They did. Think about that. Children are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. There it is. Rest of verse 4. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel to anger. They are gone away backward. Now, considering what God can do to you, think about it. Consider what God can do to you and to me. Why in the world would we ever think about doing that, making him angry? Huh? It's like saying, yeah, nah, yeah, nah, to God. Wow. Has America done that? I believe that. I believe we have. I believe we have. And I'll tell you, the more I read in the book of Isaiah, the more frightened I get. For America, not for me. I'm going to glory. I'm talking about for the people that are doing these things. Wow, think about that. God, the righteous God there. In fact, he calls him the Holy One of Israel. Notice that. The Holy One of Israel. It's used 25 times in the book of Isaiah. And in the rest of the Old Testament, it's used about 6 times. 25 times he's saying, you are unholy and I am holy, and over and over and over you're going to see that as we go through these verses. His holiness stresses that we ought to be holy. Didn't he say that? Be ye holy as I'm holy. I believe he did. And I believe he said it to them too. They were to live a holy life. The Holy One. Listen, he had a special claim on him. He is the God that set them up and gave them what they had. In fact, he gave them all of it. He said all they had to fight for when they took the land. No, all they had to do was show up. God didn't fight. God's the one that took care of it. They would have never whipped giants. Can you imagine whipping giants? No, it had to be God. Caleb was a good man, but he wasn't able to whip giants. God did it through him. And amen. And God will do it through you if you let him. But they rejected his claims. He don't have no claim on me. Huh? It'd be like you telling your daddy what to do. Huh? He's the one feeding you, son. He's the one clothing you. Can I tell you? And that's the same thing with God. He was the one caring for them. He's the one that gave them manna in the wilderness. He's the one. 40 years he put up with someone said their manners. I don't know if you call it that or not. They refused to be witnesses to the unbelieving nations. They refused to do what he told them to do. I'll tell you, it was foolishness. The Bible says, the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Now, I'm going to tell you something. The more I run into people that say they're atheists, and I do run into them time to time. Wow. I think of that verse. The fool said in his heart, there's no God. Really what they're saying is no God. They're not saying there is no God. They're saying that, but they're just saying, no God, I don't want you to run my life, is what they're saying. No God. Oh, my friend. And so, he talks about in verse 5, why should you be stricken anymore? That's like you're telling your young. Why in the world are you going to keep on this? If you do it again, I'm going to whip you again. And if you do it again, I'm going to whip you after that. And that's what God's saying. And God's a good Father. He's a good Heavenly Father. He never lies. He never tells you and then doesn't do it. I remember Grandpa of mine, son, if he told you, you're going to get it. He told you, you're going to get it. He may not give it to you now. That's worse. Like we talk about that. The hospital won't go tomorrow. Don't go and get it by this. No, it might be tomorrow, but you're going to get it. You can just worry about it a while. You can just kind of think about it a little while. But you're going to get it. And think about with God, that why should you be stricken? Why? That you will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick. I'd say the head is pretty sick if you rebel against God. That is sick. Wow. Think about that. Think about it. Foolishness. Continue. I mean, it is, they go back, they whip them, go back, whip, go back, whip. Just go right back to other gods. Oh, he allowed people to conquer them. He allowed them to attack them. I'll tell you what, you read the book of Judges sometime. That to me, that just I don't know how to describe that. I mean, every time he'd give them a leader, he'd give them a champion, he'd give them somebody to help them and get them through. And I mean, they'd turn right back. And he'd have to give them another, then he'd have to whip them and give them another. He'd let them come in and take everything they got, and then they'd cry to God, and God's so merciful. The Bible says His mercy is higher than the heavens. I'm glad.
That's right.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Man, oh man. He let somebody conquer them. He let somebody come in and take everything they got. You remember the days of Gideon? They didn't have much. They had to hide what they grew and keep the others from the enemy from eating it. And it not only taken their lands. Wow. It suffered all the consequences of sin. That's what happens when you sin against God. God brings punishment. And they became immoral, lawless, and violent. And I'll tell you, our nation has become immoral, lawless, and as violent as they were in that day. I've often wondered how bad it was before the days of Noah, before he wiped out everybody. I mean, everybody but 8 people are on that ark. It had to be bad. Oh, he doesn't go into detail. He goes into enough. It was bad. It was the day of violence. And this day that we're talking about in Isaiah is a day of violence. And when Isaiah preached this and announced this prophecy, they probably they had already been in it, obviously, but they were having a little bit of prosperity right now. And he just, why? Why should you be strictly immoral? Why do you want another whip? Why do you want me to say, I'm going to have to send somebody in there and take you down again? That's what he's saying. He said, you will revolt more and more. He knew. He knew. The whole head is sick. The whole heart is faint. From the sole of the foot even unto the head, there's no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores. They have not been clothed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment. You ever see a person that's been beat up real bad and their face looks awful, black and blue and swollen and everything? That's what he's talking about here. From the soul. Why do you want God to judge you again? He will. You're going to force Him to discipline you. That's what He's saying. You're going to force God to do it. God doesn't want to do it. God wants to bless you. Isn't that amazing? Amen. If you had a good daddy, He wanted to bless you too, but sometimes He had to chasten you, didn't He? But He makes 3 comparisons of what a nation be like when judgment failed. First of all, a nation be like a victim that had been beaten from head to toe. That's the first thing He says. No part of our body has not been affected. Could I tell you, you can't even get something on the shelf today. Could I tell you? We are already in this, and it's just going to get worse until we get right. I mean, we have been affected. You surely have to see that. Talking this morning about our healthcare system, brother, that's been affected. That's been affected. Wow. No part of the body is going to escape. And the wound's going to be severe. The head, the heart, all the way from the top, from the sole of the foot to the top of the head, it's going to be bruised and cut and left untreated, and the wound's going to, man, you're going to become infected, and it's going to get sores, and you're going to fester and rot. You're going to die if you don't get right. Number 2, the nation would be ravaged. Look at verse 7. Your country is desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. Would you say that? Over 600 the other day, burned with fire. And I don't know how many thousands upon thousands in California have been burned with fire. Would you say that? That didn't have to happen. Oh, it's just coincidence. I don't think so. The Bible says the curse shall not, causeless shall not come. The curse causeless shall not come. There's a cause. There's a reason for it. When it happens, you read somebody angry, that little tract there, you'll find out what some of the things that happen to us. And I believe they're happening today.
That's right.
I believe they're happening today. We just haven't got, somebody hasn't written about it yet, but they will. They'll catch up with it. You see, our country is desolate, burned with fire. Strangers devouring your presence. You know, down the road here, they're building big houses, $500,000 houses, maybe $1 million houses. Right across from that crossing up on the hill, they got them one. Now they got many. And I'm told there's a Russian doing that. Somebody told me the other day, the Chinese are buying our land out west. Yeah. Chinese buying it up so they can grow food. I don't think they're going to leave it for us. What happened? Yeah, I could read the book of Judges sometime. Yeah, you'll find. Wow. Over and over. Israel did not learn it over and over. America's not learning nothing from it. Nothing. Strangers devour in your presence. And it is desolate. It's overthrown by strangers. Strangers are coming in and taking over. Wow. Oh, I'm telling you. The daughter of Zion, Jerusalem would be destroyed and abandoned. That's what we're talking about. Oh, daughter of Zion. Look there in verse 8. Left as a cottage in a vineyard, as a lodge in a garden of cucumbers, as a beseech said, you just looked like a little old hood out there. You went out there and grew all the stuff, and you gathered it in, you got the melons out of it, you got everything, and now you left the house to rot. Just desolate, just left it. I don't know what we'll look like for long. Keep going like we're going. It's not going to be pretty. Rebellion against God. Oh, but thank God. Thank God. Look at verse 9. There were a few. There was a remnant. A little remnant. Hallelujah. Except the Lord. Well, I like that. It's like but in the Bible. I like them buts. I like them excepts. Except the Lord of hosts had left unto us a very small remnant. Son, we may have churches on every field and on every hill, but I wonder how much real is in it. I wonder how much real is in it. There's a lot of religion in North Carolina. And now we're going to be able to have drinking on the streets, brother. I tell you, they passed that. That don't sound too good. Don't sound too good. The governor already signed it. The Republicans, by the way, did that. Could I say that? Get political. Yeah. You're going to be able to drink. You don't have to worry about it now. You don't have no rules on it. You can just drink, walk up and down the street, and you can do anything. Old container. All right. All right. Going to tell you, we're going downhill. Going downhill. Man. He said, listen, just, you're going to be crumbling. Jerusalem. It's like a field where they've left it to rot. And thirdly, the nation's going to suffer the same fate as Sodom and Gomorrah. Look at verse 10. Hear the word of the Lord. I won't stop right there, man. I want to tell you something right now. That's our only hope.
That's right.
We need to hear the word of God. He said, hear the word of God. They wasn't listening. Some years ago, I was talking to some folks, and I knew with all my heart it's going in one ear and out the other. You know what? After a while, it proved true. God will kind of point out some things to you once in a while that maybe you don't see on your own, but I saw it coming. Boy, I'll tell you. Individuals, these are individuals, but we got a nation that's doing the same thing. Nations doing the same thing. Preachers are preaching. Got the truth here and there. I mean, not everywhere. You got, like I say, a lot of religion. But God just saved some people there. Going to be a few, just a small remnant. I believe that's all we got left today, is a small remnant. The real thing. I'm talking about, it's got the real deal. The Bible says there's only be a few that find it, didn't it? Straight's the gate and narrow's the way, and only a few find it. Broad is the road, wide is the way. Many there be to go in thereat. I believe that's the way we've got it today. The vast number of Israel would continue to rebel against God, but he said, I've got a few. I've got a few. I've got a remnant. I've got a few that's going to obey the commands. I got a few that's going to live for me. I got a few that's going to tell the tale and tell the story like it ought to be told. And I got a few that's going to witness for me. Got a few that's going to be there on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. I got a few that's going to be there. Just a remnant. But you know what? That remnant's holding this thing together, I'll tell you. And when God gets ready to come back for this remnant, this place is going to go, it is going to go quick. It is not going to be good when we leave here. They would really like to get rid of us. One day we're going to leave.
That's right.
We're going to leave. And God spared a few. So, you know why He spared a few? So that He could still have... I mean, He's not going to be a failure in this thing. He's called in Jewish people, and He loves them, and most of them He's just going to have to beat up from head to toe. But a few of them going to be left. A few of them going to follow the Word. And and by the way, 700 years later, He's got to have them Jews. Jesus is going to be born about 700 years later. And He was. Why? Because God left a remnant. That's a remnant. Most of them, nah. Most of them could care less. Most of them was just as rebellious and wicked, wickeder than an animal, He said a moment ago. Wow, they didn't even know who the boss was. They didn't know who their God was. They didn't know who their Father was. Oh my! A promise. Well, that's one of the greatest promises today. Hear the word of the Lord. I like what He said. You rulers of Sodom. I believe we got some rulers in this old place of Sodom we're living in here today. Oh, it's not as bad as Sodom, but it's headed that way. I'm going to tell you, have the same old sins too. Wickedness, immorality, homosexuality, all that. He said, hear the word of the Lord. Then He said, give ear unto the law of our God, you people of Gomorrah. It's not just rulers, brother. The people's right, falling right in there, right behind it. Rulers of Sodom, better listen to me. People of Gomorrah, better listen to me. Totally depraved. Folks, those places were totally depraved. Except God had a little remnant, brother. There wouldn't be nobody left. You remember He had to get Lot out before He could destroy them. One day you and I are going to be pulled out like a Lot. We're going to go here with a trump of God and a twinkle of an eye. We'll be gone. And man, I tell you, their only hope was to hear the Word of God. Listen to His law. That's what you and I need to be preaching. That's what we need to be sharing. That's why we need to be giving out gospel tracts and books of Romans and these things out here. We need to be giving this out. Oh, yes. Because we're the only hope. I mean, it's Jesus. You know, we got the only hope there is. Hear and listen means to heed Him, means give attention to, means to do what He's saying, not just let it go in one ear and out the other. Obey God's commands. That was the only hope. And our only hope today. Boy, I tell you, I can't imagine not wanting to please the Lord. I like that song they sing out there. I just want to please the Lord. Just want to do His will. To be lost in His presence, found in His likeness. Ooh, I like that song. That's a good. Hear Him say, well done one day. That's what I want. I don't want Him to have to whip me again. Say, you ever get one? I've got a few. Yeah. You ever get one? Yeah, probably so. How many of us have rebelled against God? Turn away from Him. Turn away from His Word. Boy, we better be careful. To rebel means to disobey. In other words, you're not going to do it. You just say people refuse to keep God's commands. They're going to live as they please. They're going to live in open sin. They don't care what God said about it. Doesn't matter. They're going to have their own way. But brother, I'll tell you, they're on dangerous ground. Like walking a tightrope walk over a river or over something, or over hell, really. Man, think about that. Doing their own thing. Immoral. Unrighteous. Oh, we've got that crowd, I'm telling you. Oh, my friend. Person, you ever meet usually a child a lot of times that's just defiant. I mean, he just defies. Oh, wow. A lot of people defiant toward the parents. Employees defiant toward the employers. Students and toward the teachers. Wow. I'll tell you what, I like the day when they could send you to the principal. Son, I want to tell you something. That straightened you out right quick. We didn't have air conditioning in them days. Windows is open. You could hear that over the entire school. Pow! Moment of silence. Let it sink in. Then pow! Another moment of silence. There's always three. Boy, he give you three licks. And then pow! And them little boys as big as the teacher, tall as the teacher, come back bawling. But I'm going to tell you something. They called the Board of Education. You get an education from that board. Now, all they do is run you off or expel you or whatever, you know. I heard of kindergarten getting expelled a while back. Kindergarten. You can't control a kindergartner? Probably full of demons. I don't know. I don't know about that. But a person of rebellion calls divisiveness and cause trouble all around him. And everybody around him. Affect your family, affect you wherever you're at. I tell you, think of the turmoil. Think about an athlete rebelling against a coach. Ain't going to be able to win many games that way. No. Students rebelling against their teachers. Wow. Oh, my friend. Kids against parents. My friend, we got it today. People in general against the government. I want to tell you something. We've got that too. When they come to our town and break the windows and all that stuff. And the government doesn't do anything about it. Wow. I won't let the police do their job. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. It's coming. But rebellion. But think about the worst rebellion. That was theirs and it's ours. It's rebellion against God. That's the worst rebellion of all. He said, don't fear those just take your life. Fear him. Say he'll take your life and then send you to hell. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he was saying. God has your life in his hands, your breath. He can take you out any time, but furthermore, he can put you into hell, and you'll never get out of there. Never. That's why people want to be atheists. They don't believe there's God, you know, because if there's a God, they're in trouble. Could I tell you there's a God and they're in trouble? I was in trouble one day. I got saved. Oh, I'm telling you, thank God, 53 years ago. Wow, the gravest offense is rebellion against God, and that's what they've done. Listen, think about rebelling against God. You've contributed. I don't care what you're doing, but you're contributing to the rest of it. All of it. You may not be murdering somebody or contributing immorality. You're contributing to it. But a violent society. We are a violent society today. We doom ourselves. They were dooming themselves. Why should you be stricken anymore? Is that 90%? Why? Don't understand. Why you want to be punished again? Can't be fun. I never did enjoy it much. I'll tell you something. Here's what God's Word says about rebellion. Romans chapter 2, verse 5. But after thy hardness and impenitent heart, treasurest up unto thyself wrath against the day of wrath and revelation of the righteous judgment of God. Judgment of God's coming. Your day, my day coming, we're all now. We either are saved or going to be at the judgment seat of Christ for rewards and so on. But think about those that go to the white throne judgment. There'll be no hope. There'll be no lawyers. There'll be no spoken words. There'll be no saying you didn't treat me fair. God will just show them and replay their life and show them what they did. Show them the times they said no to him. Oh no. I mean, they're treasuring it up. It's like you treasure up money or jewels or something. They're just piling it up. And just piling up wrath. More wrath. 1 Samuel chapter 12, verse 15. But if you will not obey the voice of the Lord, but rebel against the commandment of the Lord, then shall the hand of the Lord be against you, as it was against your fathers. All they had to do is go back. They knew the history. They knew the history. They knew what had happened to them. They read about it, knew about the earth opening up and swallowing up. I mean, alive. He's going down in hell alive. They knew about them snakes coming in there and killing all them people. I mean, a lot of people died before they got that brazen serpent put up there. A lot of people died. They knew what happened to them. On and on you could go. How many died when they made that golden calf? Wow. A lot of people died. God broke in on them with a plague. A plague, a pestilence. Ooh. Sound familiar? Proverbs 29 verse 1 says, he that being often reproved and hardeneth his neck shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy. Oh my friend, oh my friend, are we there today? I believe we are. Probably worse than Israel, if that's possible. I mean, you look at some of the things that are happening, and you don't know the half of it. I don't know the half of it. I'm glad I don't know any more than I know. I know too much. I know enough. But oh my friend, what God sees, He sees it all. I don't think we've gone too far. I believe we could have revival. I just always go back to Nineveh. Boy, I tell you, it just blesses my heart to know that even after there was no preaching of get saved, there's no preaching of, there's all preaching of judgment. That's all. It was past all that other stuff. And yet God had mercy on them when they repented in sackcloth and ashes. They even put sackcloth and ashes on the beasts. They put on the mules, put on the donkeys, yes, brother, the cows. They meant business. And you know what? When we mean business, God mean business. But until this, I believe if America got right, I believe this thing is closed up in America. Now, not in the world. If just America got right, I believe God would clean it up in America. And they'd still have it everywhere else. I believe that. But the problem is, we all in it together. Aren't we? This whole world has gone mad. Gone crazy. Oh, my friend. Is anybody listening and watching this thing that's not saved? Boy, I tell you, don't wait another day. The Bible says today is the day of salvation. You're not promised tomorrow. I was just reading a little article the other day about a man. Young lady went and witnessed to him, and boy, he was just almost ready to get saved, and then he got to thinking about it. I believe I'll do this next year. And he died of a massive heart attack. Oh, my friend, you're not promised tomorrow. I'm not promised tomorrow. If I'm going to win that loved one, I need to pray for him today. I need to witness to him today. I don't need to wait till tomorrow because it may be too late. And I'll have that on my conscience. The blood will be on their hands, the Bible says. I want us to have an invitation song this morning. And then we'll have prayer. If anybody here has a loved one or something, you feel free to get an altar. Of course, if anybody's not saved, we don't want to ever just act like everybody's saved here just because you came to church. But if you need Jesus, you come and we'll pray with you, show you how to be saved. But if you want to come and you know you're saved, but you want to pray for somebody, want to maybe just come and pray for America. Oh, God, how we need it. How we need it. Can't you hear God saying, why do you want me to whip you again? Why do you want to be stricken again? Why don't you want the coronavirus to stop? It could stop. Not till we stop. Not till we stop. Could we play a verse, maybe a couple of verses?
Thank you for joining us for this week's message from Pastor Billy Balcom. For more information about New Beginning Baptist Church and our ministries, please visit our website at www.nbbc280.org. If you have any questions about our church or comments about this video, please use the contact page on our website or send an email to crane.t@nbbc280.org. May the Lord Jesus Christ give you grace for today and bright hope for tomorrow.